Well, here we are on a wet Friday morning, about to tackle the issues of the day, and no better man to assist me in this is Pat+Jude. How are you, Pat? How's it in
Morning,
Donegal?
Jude.
Pissing rain?
It's pissing rain. By the way, I know you're a great motor fan, but this morning
Yeah.
the Donegal International Rally starts, and there's a garage down below me, and apparently this morning it's not a politically correct expression, but I'm informed they were quote unquote black with people. There was all sorts of cars and people down there, so it's a big event. By the way, Jude, I know you're a big motor fan, but anyway,
Yes,
I'm sure you've never heard of it, but there you go.
I haven't heard of it. That's my ignorance, but I think I'd rather just hear a mosquito sound flying into my ear now. Zoom, zoom.
That's about it. That's exactly it.
But it was very exciting when I was young. But I can't help thinking that the people who still think it's great to have arrested development at about 11 or 12 years of age.
Well, anyway. Yesterday was going up Letterkenny. There are a number of cars, and they're all souped up, and they're all about 30 years old. But go ahead, Jude.
Do they have to close off roads for that, Pat?
Yeah, of course they do.
Jeez. I might be a bit narked by that if I was trying to get.
There's a lot of people very narked about that, but it's worth something like 50 million to the local economy.
Oh well, yeah. Then maybe it's worth the price. I was blocked off yesterday in Belfast. I had to go a roundabout way to get to the library. And I said to the guy, "What's it called?" He says, "Oh, they're shooting a film." I says, "Oh, right. What's it called? Blue Light or Blue Lights? I'm not sure which." And he said it's going to be out in February. So there you are, excitement in not only Donegal but in Belfast.
Belfast, okay. Good for them.
Let's get down to the serious business. Well, yes, it's serious and not serious. The Derry girls. One Derry girl in particular. The girl who played called Jamie Lee O'Donnell, who's from Derry. Yeah. Actually, the others are from other different places in Ireland.
Well, the other wee girl, the one Saoirse, I can't remember her second name. She's Derry, but the other Coughlin, she's from Galway, as far as I know. But though she has a brilliant Derry accent.
Yeah.
And I can't remember where the other one's from, but I think two of them are from Derry. Jamie Lee O'Donnell is definitely from Derry.
I have to confess, I have to make a confession. Well, I don't have to, but I'll make it anyway. I never quite got Derry. I got it, but I didn't enjoy it, particularly Derry Girls. And the reason I didn't enjoy it, I think, was because it was all played at a high octane level all the time. I really wish they could have, had a wee bit more modulation, go down a bit, and then you'd notice when it came on full octane blast. Yeah. What do you think yourself?
Yeah, no, I quite enjoyed it. Now, Jude, that was my era. I was the editor of the Derry Journal in the 1980s, and this is set in the 1980s. And I identified with a lot of it. And, Jude, the thing I think Lisa McGee, the writer and creator of it, what she did get was that whole thing that despite the troubles and, the troubles were the backdrop, but life went on as well. Like these were young girls growing up in the troubles, and they were still concerned about boyfriends and about friendships and about all the things. And she did. Now, Jude, I can't argue with you. It goes at 100 miles an hour all the time. But then there's sometimes in the middle of it all, there's this pathos and there's this sadness in it too. So there's, she does, but there's not enough of it. You could argue.
Okay. Well, we're not actually talking about Derry Girls. We're talking about Jamie Lee O'Donnell, who had a documentary on TV the other night. Was it RT it was on, or was it?
No, Channel 4.
Channel 4. And it was her telling us what Derry was like, or is like. Now, I didn't see it. I saw glimpses of it, and I'm intending to look at it. But I gathered there was a couple of sort of embarrassing moments that occurred in it. Maybe you'll tell us about it. Pat, you saw it?
I actually did watch it last night. O'Donnell's a bit of a bubbly character, and and she's very like I've met people like her and Derry. She's a very nice girl. Everything's a bit of a laugh, but behind all there's this sort of a profundity that you wouldn't expect at the start. She chats away all the time, and she says she said one of the things she does is she goes over to the waterside to a sort of a loyal band, one of the marching bands, and she goes in and she does the usual, Derry, how's it going, how's the farm, how you getting on type thing, and so on, and she's chatting away and all the rest. And she says she chats a lot when she's nervous, But she came out with two crackers. That first one, she says, "I don't suppose she's know any Wolf Tone tunes." That one straight over their heads. And the next thing, then, of course,
did it go over their heads? Did they not?
They sort of looked at her as if to say, "What are you on about?" type thing. There was sort of blankness. But then she says, "What's your views on Bloody Sunday?" And I think the Irish Times says the air crackled with hostility. Now, I don't know if it did or didn't, but there was definitely, total silence. Nobody came back, whatever. Now, Jude, here, let me just put something into perspective. About 25 years ago, a Protestant friend of mine, I was invited over to his house to dinner, and there was a young couple there who were also from the Unionist community. And anyway, with a couple of drinks on board, which is never a good idea, the whole discussion came around to Bloody Sunday. And the young lady, who was stunningly good looking, who was everything you thought of being a young, educated, liberal person, she said to me in the middle of it all, she says, "I regard Bloody Sunday as Good Sunday." And I've never forgotten that.
Good God. Good God. This is a middle-class woman.
Yeah, absolutely.
Intelligent.
Yeah.
So
you would see, it sort of came back to my mind when, like, Jude, if tomorrow morning you or I or anyone else was asked about that, say the IRA shot dead 13 totally innocent Protestants on the streets of Derry, one after the other, wounded 14 others for no reason whatsoever, no matter what, you basically would say, "Look, I don't agree with this," but you just sort of meet it with total silence. It shows how, what do you say, polarized, divisive this whole society we have.
Maybe she was drunk.
Who?
The woman that said it.
Jude, and Vino Veritas? No, Jude, not at all. She had a couple of drinks, certainly, but there was no question, as far as that the Catholics shouldn't have been on the street. They were up against the state.
Well, I've heard that one too. They've said, it was an illegal march.
That's exactly what she said to me. It was an illegal march, and Jude, there's you can't. But the point I'm making is, seeing this, it is a bit of a zero-sum society. That if it happens to other crowd, fair enough.
Yeah. Let's go back to Jimmy Lee, though. She asked, do you know any Wolf Tone songs? And then asked, what do you think of the Bloody Sunday, or the 50th anniversary? What do you? Should you have asked those questions, or were you faulting the response to them, or the non-response, or what?
No, what was interesting, Jude, I don't know if I can answer that question, but what I'm saying is, she was shocked that their reaction wasn't the same as hers. That's the point that I took out of it.
Aye, should you have been?
Maybe not. Maybe she should have.
No, I must say, I haven't seen it, but I just saw those two quotes in the report of it. And I must say, to ask a loyalist flute band or whatever, do you know any Wolf Tone numbers?
I know it was meant as a humorous. No, Jude,
a joke.
It was meant as an icebreaker. It wasn't meant seriously.
All right, okay. So we'll leave that as an icebreaker. And then she asked them, what did they think of the 50th anniversary of Bloody Sunday?
She was serious then.
Yeah, was that a good question?
Yeah, I think it was legitimate, because she wanted to see, do other people see what I see? You see, Jude, Bloody Sunday has shaped the whole political discourse, or whatever narrative that you are, whatever word you want to use, in Derry. It's shaped it totally. It's living memory. Even O'Donnell wasn't born in 1972, but she said it shaped her mother and her father. It shaped even me. I was 18 when it happened, and I lived in Letterkenny then. But it shaped me. I see a lot of things through the prism of what happened that day. Changed my views totally on a lot of things. So Jude, she was saying, look, you people were brought up in the same city as I was, and so on, but you see it totally different. And the fact that, and she was actually, I would say, go so far as to say she was shocked at the fact that the lack of reaction and almost the hostility.
That's a bit depressing, actually, isn't it? I mean, you would have thought they would have given a soft response to that, at least, given the fact that she's from this huge hit series, Derry Girls. They know the kind of person she is, probably. I must thought that my first reaction was that it was a bit like poking the wasp's nest. But when you say what you said, Pat, I'm more convinced that perhaps there were reasonable questions, and questions. Really, I suppose a joke in the first one, and the second was an effort to find maybe common ground.
Yeah, exactly. Jude, if somebody had to come out and say, "Look, wait a minute, what was happening was terrible," but look, it was an illegal march, and or some sort of saying why we think, but there was just total silence. That's that. And now I don't know. I'm repeating myself here, but the Irish Times said the air crackled with hostility.
Yeah,
and you could have read that into it because there was no attempt at explanation, no attempt at a response, no attempt at a retort, no attempt to sort of explain.
Oh well, if I was one of the loyalist band, and here you had this young woman come in who was part of a world famous hit series about Derry, and they called it Derry Girls, not London Derry Girls. And I was asked this question. I think as an ordinary Joe, I would have been thinking, Jesus, maybe I'll keep my mouth shut on this because I'll say something.
Yeah, that's true, right. Yeah, so I accept that maybe you say no matter what I say, I'm going to say the wrong thing here. That's fair enough. Can't argue with that either.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I'll have to see now. Did you interpret it as being the air electric with tension, or did you just see it as an embarrassing moment for them?
More the second, the latter. I think there is an issue. The fact that nobody responded. That is an issue that neither you nor I nor they can run away from.
Bad. Well, they should have been ready for a minute. The thing whenever they signed up to the idea of this girl coming to, or this young woman coming to interview them. Yeah, they should have sort of had their thinking caps on. Okay, slightly depressing, isn't it? Slightly depressing. Anyway, let's go on to something even more depressing. The price of renting a car. According to the Irish Times, the price of renting a car, you could get a car in the north of Ireland, in the occupied territories, for €350, and the same car in the liberated section of our country for €1,000. Now, why is that?
Jude, what seems to have happened, Jude, by the way, you're actually been very generous there. One guy, I think we mentioned it last week in Clare, and I was a hotelier. I said there were people flying in from America, and they were looking for a 7-seater, and then they quoted €5,000 for a week.
Right, you're telling me.
I heard somebody on it a week earlier on one of the programs. I think it might have been Claire Byrne, or no, it was Joe Duffy, live telling the story. They have friends coming in from Idaho, as far as I remember, and they were looking for a car, and they were quoted $2,200.
Well, what do you put it down to, Pat? Is it charging?
No, apparently what happened, this is the explanation I've heard now 2 or 3 times. When along came COVID, the aviation industry fell off a shelf. Nobody was flying in. Hertz and all these other people, Avis, had huge cars numbers, paying whatever it was. So what happened was they absolutely downsized massively. They sold off massive numbers of the cars. So now they've only got a very, very small percentage of the original numbers. So the demand is far greater than the supply. And
did they not do the same thing in the north, Pat? Did they not do?
Not to the same extent, but the other thing as well. What's happening in the north? There's a firm called Shelburne Motors, as far as I remember his name.
Yes, down in Uri.
200 or 300 cars. Yeah. And rather than having them sitting in the yard, they've decided to sort of rent them out, and they're charging roughly $350. There's one guy flew in from Australia with his family, and he, for some reason, looked north and came across Shelburne Motors and got a car for $300, and he put it up on social media. And since that, apparently they have something like 550% increase in inquiries in 1 year of people looking for cars, and they're renting them out. And the guy, I can't remember the name of the general manager of Shelburne Motors, but he says June is totally booked out, July is totally booked out, August is going at a hell of a rate, and even yet September is looking like. So basically they're now full on, and they've even got 20 or 30 vans they can rent out if you're stuck.
Well, is it just this particular Shelburne Motors in the north, or is it applying across the north generally?
I think that the bits I've read are basically Shelburne Motors, but apparently in general it is across the north, because they have a bigger supply of cars in the north than they have. Dublin Airport, Jude, there's, what is it, 50 to 100,000 going through Dublin Airport every day. You need a hell of a big supply of cars for those people coming in and out.
Well, you would have thought, Pat, given that, as you say, the numbers coming through, you should have been able to do it to scale. So the argument would be you should have been able to rent them out cheaper, because you could use a smaller margin of profit because you sell your rent.
No, but they've sold off. They haven't bought any new cars. The claim is, I find that, I did economics for up to what you'd call A level, but I still don't get this. The law of supply and demand said for whatever. But what's happening right now is the demand is so high that there's price gouging. They don't have the cars. So if I've got 10 cars and I say, look, I want 500, and you say, no, we're okay. Somebody, I'll give you 6. That's what's happening. They're charging. They're getting away with it because they're saying, well, like, the car's there. This is what we want. If you want that car, this is what you're going to have to pay.
I wonder if it's connected with the price of cars in the north and the price of cars in the south to buy, as the same from rent. Because my brother-in-law from Dublin bought a BMW up in Coleraine.
Yeah.
He drove all the way from Dublin up to Coleraine and bought, he risked having that journey for nothing, but he more or less had the deal set up on the phone. He drove up and he bought a BMW and drove it down. Now, he had to pay some extra money to bring it into the south, but that was, he says it was still well worth his while. Not only him, but his son did exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
So there must be a huge marked difference in the price of cars. Given the fact that the South's in the EU and the North's in Brexit, it should, according to our thinking, in the South should be cheaper.
No, you see, there's a vehicle registration. The South got this thing called a derogation. At one stage, when we were being sold this dream of the EU about single transferable market, you could buy a car in Belgium and a quarter of the price in Ireland and bring it in. But the southern government saw that would destroy the trade here and their tax revenue, so they got a derogation, and you couldn't do that. But having said that, Jude, I've looked at this, by the way. There's not a massive difference between buying a car in the north and buying a car in the south, particularly since Brexit. When you have to take the price of cars in the north have gone up alarmingly and since Brexit. Secondly, when you take in, if you can buy a van in the north, say £1,000 or £2,000 cheaper, you have to pay what they call VRT, which is vehicle registration tax in the south. And by the time you, which is based on the value of the car in the Republic. So by that stage, okay, you save a wee bit of money, but it's not that much. And the hassle sometimes of having to bring it up to the revenue people, having to go through all the filling in the forms, you just say, shit, I'll buy someone else.
Really? That's very interesting now, because that must have happened since then.
Now, if you're buying a luxury car, Jude, it might be a lot better.
Maybe. Yeah, they seemed very happy with the deal they got. Yeah. And I was thinking, if they had to make that journey and then make the deal and then drive down again and then put all these extras of registering and so on, that it must have been a damn good deal. But I thought, that happened since Brexit. Maybe Brexit hadn't taken full, got into its stride at that stage. Anyway, that's interesting now. It's a pity. Is it really? Is this you feel in a way that this is price gouging and it's killing the goose?
Jude, what's happening? They've got a small number of cars, and they know that demand is there, so they've just set a price. Take it or leave it. That's the attitude. Really.
Somebody should. Maybe this.
The government should step in. It's doing our reputation as a country no good, and it's certainly not.
You're not a country. You're a state.
Shut up, Jude. It's the Republic of Ireland. Then okay, keep you happy.
Stating, yeah. Okay, what was the rest of your sentence?
Our reputation worldwide, this is price gouging, Jude. There's no two ways. Yeah. And see all this rubbish that some of them are coming out with, let the market decide. Jude, it's rip-off Republic all over again.
Wow, it's really self-defeating. It's terribly self-defeating, especially since tourism is such a huge
industry. Absolutely huge industry here.
Crazy. Okay, Let's move on to another topic, a bit controversial indeed. Michael D. Higgins. Michael D. Higgins, the Irish Times says, may be a poet, but his economics rarely rhyme. This is an article, sort of an opinion piece in the Irish Times today. And they're talking about the fact that, remember, he came out the other day and said that, the housing situation was absolutely, I forgot how he phrased it, but it was.
He said it was a disaster.
Even he added a second thing as well. It's very Michael D. Anyway, I mean, to my mind, he was stating the bleeding obvious. But I was wondering what you thought of it. Was it a good idea?
Jude, I think he said it was our great failure, something along those lines.
That's right. You repeated the word. Great.
Yeah. Something like that.
Do you think
not 100%
he kept his trap shut, or you have?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There's some people going on making this a song and dance about the separation of power, the president, the constitutional rule.
If
that's the case, he can say nothing. Jude, if what he said is the truth and is factually correct, it's not political. If as president of the Republic of president of Ireland, by the way, you shouldn't say the president of the Republic of Ireland, president of Ireland, he cannot speak out and say he was speaking at the opening of a homeless shelter in Naas, County Kildare, as far as I remember. Yeah. And if you cannot speak about homelessness at the opening of a homeless shelter, when can you speak about it? The reality is there are, even in Donegal, let me just tell you, because I had to do an article for a fellow yesterday. There's something like 2,600 people in Donegal, families on a waiting list. They haven't a hope in hell of getting a house.
In Donegal?
A small county like Donegal. Say again, Jude. Sorry?
In Donegal?
Yeah, in Donegal.
Jeez, I always thought it was around Dublin.
No. I haven't a clue how many around Dublin. I really genuinely have, but I had a reason to look up yesterday. I think it's 2,200, 2,300, up to 2,600, well over 2,000, put it like that. That's for definite.
And these are people.
And you sort of say, like, homelessness, look in Dublin. We have been doing this road before. The average rent is somewhere about 2,200 now in Dublin. Vulture funds have come in. An apartment block is finished. These vulture funds buy it up right away and do whatever they have to do, and then make it out, rent it out at exorbitant rents. The average person can't come in and buy and compete with vulture funds.
Yeah. But let's stick with, take the point you're making now, but let's stick with Michael D. Higgins. I think if he's not allowed to talk on politics, I suspect that, well, I suppose he expressed an opinion now. He didn't, it wasn't just facts. It was an opinion based on facts. Let's put it like that. And I have to remember, of course, that Mary Robinson made a political gesture, a very strong political gesture when she met Gerry Adams on the Falls Road, shook hands with him. Mary McAleese made a pretty strong political comment or judgment of some kind when she invited the Orange Order every 12th into Arasanook and her husband went playing golf with Jackie MacDonald, the loyalist leader. So, you know, I suppose he's following in a tradition for the president of Ireland. Well, there's two things strike me. Now, I hope you won't take this the wrong way, Pat. Not against you. This is against your president and mine, as you say, president of Ireland. I cannot help but think sometimes that Michael D has a higher opinion of himself than his many genuflecting admirers.
Yeah. And what's your second point?
Nearly everybody likes him. Nearly everybody thinks he's really smart. Nearly everybody thinks he's eloquent. But I can't help but think that he thinks he's even smarter and more eloquent. No? Am I wrong?
No, you know, there's a fella I knew, and I always said there wasn't a mirror that he didn't like. You know, I think our wee president is a bit of an academic.
There's a touch of that. I do think I suppose he's got a lot to be. He's got a lot to be immodest about.
Yes, yeah. You know, or as Churchill said, you have a lot to be modest about, exactly. But anyway, Jude, no, hey, Jude, let's stick to Michael D. Right, Michael D. made a statement at the thing, and Jude, the biggest issue, there are more people now living with mommy and daddy than they were probably in the 1960s. There are a whole lot of people simply can't get on the housing ladder.
Yeah.
There are people, their numbers of families on the waiting list are growing.
Okay.
There was an ideological thing, Jude. I grew up in a council house or a council estate in Letterkenny.
Yeah.
My mother and father, when in the 1960s, got a house at a place called Ardcolmkill. It was social housing, as they call it nowadays. It was provided by the council, and it was a brilliant place to grow up. But my father worked in the ESB, which as a linesman. My mother didn't, and there were 7 in the family. There's no way they could afford to build their own home.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we grew up there, and we all did reasonably well, and so on. But the government and society provided good quality housing. Mm-hmm. Then for about 40 years, 30 years, it was left to the private developers. Let the market decide. There was no social housing built, and a lot of people fell by the wayside. And that was political ideology. Now, Jude, it came home to roost. The number of people, that is why the growth, Jude, going off to a side here, why the growth, Sinn Féin has struck a chord big time, because those left behind just saying, you people are arrogant, you're out of touch. And if you see the absolute firecracker of a debate between Pierce Doherty and Leo Varadkar.
I saw that. Yeah. I mean, I think we could have done a separate.
That's what when Doherty said to him, "You people with your wine and sitting there celebrating, and people are at the punch of their collar because of the cost of living." This is what all this is about.
I think we should go back, not this time because I don't think we have time for it. In fact, we're down to the last 10 minutes already. Yeah. But I think at some stage we should come back to that thing about these head clashes in the Dáil or in the House of Commons, for that matter. I find it very interesting, the whole notion of it. But anyway, we'll leave Michael D with this final thought. Does Michael D see any irony in the fact that he's lamenting homelessness in the south of Ireland while he and his wife and no children live in a house with 95 rooms?
Jude, I knew you were going to come out with that one. I just knew it. That is the presidential residence. He doesn't know it.
I know that.
And he'll be leaving
it. Ars an Uachtaráin, it's called.
Ars an Uachtaráin belongs to the state. And whatever. No, I didn't realize how big it was until last night. They saw the drone footage, and I was going, Jesus Christ. But anyway, it is not. Mr. Michael Higgins. Michael doesn't have the lease or the what do you call them papers that said deeds to the place. He simply lives there through grace and favour. Shut up a minute. He lives there as President of Ireland in the same way as the Prime Minister of Britain lives at 10 Downing Street. He doesn't own it. And when he's finished, he's out.
My point is they're worth a fortune. Both those are worth a fortune. Is it necessary for the leader, for the head of state or the prime minister to live in such amazing luxury? Will their heads stop working? Will they be unable to do their duties?
That is
except they're chauffeured around in big cars and huge mansions.
It's the official residence of the president.
I know it is.
Hold on. It's where he receives visitors from other heads of state. Hold on, would you have a meeting down about 17 Beechwood Avenue Dundalk or somewhere?
The last person I heard making that argument was Cardinal Cahill Daly. Jerry Adams or somebody said, why does he not have a residence somewhere near where people are, ordinary people in the Falls Road in West Belfast? And the answer he was given was important people wouldn't come to visit him there. That's essentially the same argument you're making for them. That's bad. I think it's a root issue and it should be addressed. I think it's sort of.
Would you give me a chance here? That's what my mother used to say when she was losing an argument. But Jude, that is the official residence. It's not his. That's the point.
I know. I realize that.
Get off your hobby horse.
No, but somebody should do something about it, and he should do something about it. If he's going to talk about housing, he should also talk about the fact that he is, against his will, has been forced to live in a mansion.
Yeah. Hey, Jude, tell the Queen to get out of Buckingham Palace.
Exactly.
Tell the president of France to go to the Champs-Elysees or whatever the hell or the Palais de Versailles or what the hell he loves.
Well, there's nobody living in the Palais de Versailles.
I don't even know who lives there anymore. What about the guy, the president, or anyway, go on ahead. Change.
I just think that undermines Michael D. Higgins' own argument. It does. There's an irony behind it, and it takes away from what he's saying, and it is an appalling thing, the homelessness in the South. Let's move on to a topic I find really, really interesting. I didn't hear this. I know you're a devout listener to Live Line. And Joe Duffy, you admire Joe Duffy enormously. I neither listen to it regularly, nor do I admire Joe Duffy. But Joe Duffy apparently said they were discussing transgender stuff. And whatever way it was discussed, the transgender people have pulled out of an arrangement or a coalition or whatever you call it with RTE as a result. In other words, they weren't a bit pleased with the way their subject was treated. Did you by any chance hear it, or did you read it?
No, right. Let me get two things clear. I hope you were saying that with irony, because I detest the Joe Duffy show. Secondly, I never listened to it. Joe Duffy, I
have listened to it, but I don't listen to it.
I have listened to it, yeah. You know, if I'm driving in a car and there's nothing else on, and he comes on, and sometimes, so on. But I missed this one. But basically, Dublin Pride have RTE were their media partner.
Yeah.
And Joe apparently had about 3 different programs where about this transgender stuff.
Yeah.
And Dublin Pride, Jude, I don't know how much this, but what they're basically saying is it was a forum for everybody just to lash in it, people who are transgender, that it was bigoted, that it was unfair and one-sided.
What did people say, I wonder?
Jude, I really can't answer.
Would you have an example of that?
No, but what Duffy himself said, I wrote it down. He said he found it was deeply disturbing that people would think that he would be anyway this way inclined. He said what he did do was provide a forum for people to give opinions, and he said it was, and he said by and large it was done in fairness and equity, and he said everybody got their point of view, which, by the way, and in fairness, I think from judging, I've listened to some sort of a reaction to it, that both sides did give her a chance. But you know the thing about it is, what do you call your woman that wrote all the Harry Potter? I can't remember.
J.K. Rowling.
J.K. Rowling. This is a subject that seems to get people very, very
hot under the collar.
And the Republicans in America too are big time.
Right.
And the only thing I will say, I got involved in a wee discussion with a family member. She said she has got a friend who is transgender, and she started referring to her as they.
Yeah.
And I am saying, wait a minute, I am not playing that game. I don't care, Jude, whether you're gay, lesbian, transgender, but once you start referring to one person as they, the whole idea of language goes out the window as far as
I completely agree with you on that. I also think now, as I say, I also would be aware of the fact that transgender people get a really bad time, just as homosexuals had a hard time, I'm sure still in some places, and I think that's outrageous. But I'll tell you, it's also outrageous, maybe in a less harmful way, but in some senses equally harmful, to say to people, I'm a woman, and by the way, I've got a penis. That seems to me like, you'll remember 1984 by George Orwell, where the guy holds up 4 fingers, and he says, how many fingers do I have up now? And the guy says 4, and I think he's tortured. And he keeps saying it until eventually he says, oh, you're 5. I believe you're 5. That's comparable, in my opinion, to say that somebody who wants maybe to be a woman, but is born a man, to try to deny the fact that they were born a man and say, I'm really a woman.
Like, you see, everybody wants to paint anybody that has a different opinion to a corner. I think there is something, like, if I was a man, like there's Bruce Jenner, changed sex. He won the the decathlon years ago, right? If he wins a decathlon as a man and then changes sex and becomes a woman, like what chance is an ordinary woman against him and say in Olympics, so on? There's tennis players, there are swimmers who change from, and then enter the competition. And it strikes me, there's a big issue about fairness in this whole thing about sport. That somebody who had been previously male is now female and can enter. But it's not. It's much more than just sport, of course.
Well, less than 2 minutes, Pat. Okay.
Yeah, but the bottom line is, Jude, I think. Look, Jude, here's the point. I don't, and I'm repeating this. if you're a gay or lesbian and so on, so on. But Jude, I think everybody should be treated with respect. But
right.
don't try and turn around. Like you know, other people are entitled to a point of view as well.
Well, I would agree completely in terms of respect, but I would I think it's a lack of respect for rational discussion if you say that somebody who is clearly a man or a woman and say that the other, I'm not really this, I'm something else. That sort of strikes right at the heart of any sort of discussion. It's like Boris Johnson and his famous, you know, I'll make a treaty and I'll say I'll keep by this, and then no, I'm not going to do it. No, I didn't sign that at all, or I didn't mean that at all. You really have to use language, and it has to make sense. And you can't say if somebody is of one gender that they are actually another. Now, I'm not saying that they should be persecuted because of that. But it's bloody absurd. It's actually
wasn't it Orwell said that George Orwell said that when language started to become sort of imprecise, society was going to break down because people had to know what things meant. That's right.
He said you can tell, he says, the veracity of people's argument by the clumsiness with which they present it. So anyway, okay, time's up, Pat. We could talk for hours on this topic. We could probably explain all sorts of things to everybody.
Yeah.
What gender they are, ourselves. What race. Okay, Pat.
Good luck.
Would you stop that rain before it comes this far west? Okay.
It's drying up here.
Oh, there you are. Good. Okay, Pat. Thanks.
Good luck, Jude. Bye. Cheers. Bye.